Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
I'm a full-time single mum to 6 kids. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. I don't have a teaching degree, but I have a mum degree. I know them the best and I love them the most. Listening to mummy, that makes me the best person to be beside them and guide them through life.
G'day, it's Dr. Justin Coulson, the parenting expert on Parental Guidance, Channel 9's reality TV show about parenting styles, and the founder of happyfamilies.com.au. Kylie, mum to our 6 daughters and my wife and podcast partner. Hey, Kylie, today, pretty much the last time we're going to be talking about parental guidance. Maybe a quick wrap up tomorrow, but we've talked to Andrew and Miriam, we've talked to Brett and Tony, we've talked to Penny and Daniel, we've talked to Kevin and Debbie, we've talked to Alison Langdon.
We've had some great conversations over the last week.
And when I'm watching what's been happening on social media, not that I'm actually watching it too closely, I'm trying to stay away from it, but as I've watched the conversations and heard people talking, the one parent who keeps on coming up again and again, but didn't actually make it into that final 4 is Deb, the homeschool mum to 6 kids.
I think you're going to just get pushed to the side. This conversation is going to be 2 mums with lots of kids having a really good conversation.
Can you imagine if we got together with Deb for a barbecue? There'd be 12 kids running around.
That's just another day in our house.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it. Anyway, Deb, the homeschool mum, it's so nice to be able to talk to you today. Thanks so much for joining us on the Happy Families podcast.
Thanks so much, Justin and Kylie. It's a pleasure to chat with you.
Deb, people are fascinated with homeschooling and you have started a conversation around the country with parents who are kind of going, is this something that I could do?
But it's homeschooling on steroids, right?
Oh my goodness, 6 children, and you've done it from the very beginning. What made you decide to go with homeschooling?
It really was the mother heart and the connection that I had with my first little one, Jess, and she was about 3, and my friends were starting to look at booking them into schools, and I just thought, that's so foreign. I've got so much more mothering and loving to do on this child. I'm not ready to hand her over to a stranger in literally a few years' time. And then randomly a friend said, well, why don't you homeschool like I do? You love being around your kids. You're not eager to get rid of them. They've never been to childcare, or they were always in my care. And that set me off on a research journey, and here I am 12 years later. The little pressures that I may feel with being responsible for their education is still less than how I would juggle, 5, 6 kids going to school.
All right. So I've got to jump in here for a sec, because there is that whole thing where you get 6 hours of peace and quiet in the middle of the day. I'm just putting it out there. As a couple, Kylie and I have toyed with homeschool as an option on and off for probably the last 10 or 12 years. And even, watching the show and watching what you do, we started the conversation again. And we've got one child in particular who we think would probably really benefit from having a homeschool situation. But what that does is one of the things that we're struggling with is it really interferes with the capacity that we have, or specifically Kylie, because unfortunately, my work hours and the fact that I've got to provide for the family mean that I have to be inflexible and say, no, if we homeschool, it actually is going to be 99% Kylie. Kylie kind of needs that 6 hours in the middle of the day to do so many other things that we value, like keeping the house clean, but also doing things that are really important to her. So how do you navigate that?
How do you juggle it all?
Yeah, how do you juggle it all? Because stuff's still got to happen and the kids are now underfoot.
Always there, 24/7. That is correct. That's where I say it's different obviously in the last few years comparison with COVID and people doing school at home. Homeschooling is a way of life. So it has always been that for me. I've never not been without my children. So my life has grown around them, and you have to be deliberate in finding those moments for yourself or what you need to do. But equally, that's where children become part of that everyday routine of housework and keeping the family functioning.
Do they whinge though? They're like, oh, I don't want to clean. No, I'm not. Do you get to that point where you're like, seriously, I'm going to send you to school unless you start doing some housework?
They are not perfect. And that is the first thing I always want to say. They're kids, and kids are kids. As much as I put my hand up too, and I just go, yeah, I don't want to either. And I give myself that permission that day.
What would you say the hardest thing about homeschooling is, Deb?
Definitely since separating and now being a single mum. So pre that, I was you, Kylie. I was a stay-at-home mum. All I had to do was look after the house, the children. That was pretty much it. Still big jobs.
I was going to say, you say all I had to do, but I know that when Kylie's away and all I have to do is look after the house, the kids, the meals, the ironing, the washing. And it's like, wow, like there is no, especially with 6 kids, there is not enough time in the day to just do that stuff. So, but anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I agree with you. I say I just had to do that because now I add the breadwinner on top of my role. So that has been the last 12 months particularly very challenging to juggle working out of the home. I work in the home. Some of my businesses I run from home and then my other jobs I'm working out of the home. So that is definitely tough.
After the break, we're going to find out more about Deb's experience on Parental Guidance, the big lessons learned, the things that the kids loved and hated about the show, and a couple of other little questions that we've got. It's the Happy Families podcast with Justin and Kylie.
It's the Happy Families podcast.
Are screens creating tension at home? Tweens, Teens and Screens is a webinar to guide families to healthy, safe super screen solutions. Buy it today at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families podcast, the podcast for the time poor parent who just wants answers now. And today we are talking with homeschooling mum, Deb, extraordinaire. Unbelievable what you're doing. 6 children at home, schooling them and doing it alone. That's a really big task.
Deb, in the show, for the most part, it looked like you've got it pretty well together. And even talking to you about it now, it sounds like with clear intention, with clear focus, you really do know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. And it's obviously working for you. I'm really curious. Our children, Kylie and my children, as we were watching the show, they made a couple of comments about your family specifically. They said, Deb's kids really seem to get along, don't they? And we said, yes, can you be more like that, please? Do they actually get along that well, or do they still have their moments?
Again, they're certainly not perfect, and we're all individuals, and we have those days where you're tired and they're grumbly with each other, but we share life every day, and it still means that we can rub each other the wrong way. Do not get me wrong, please. Total normal family. It is a different way of life.
You said on the show, Deb, that you felt like a failure when Jess was struggling to give up her screen. Can you take us into that a little bit more and what that experience was like for you? Yes,
that was real, that moment. And my toughest, but singularly my best moment on the show. Just thinking that we'd had enough discussions and conversations and modelling around technology that it wasn't this big thing in their life or the most important thing that they couldn't live without was really confronting to see that it was a pushback and to say not even for 24 hours that she wasn't willing to negotiate that challenge. It was definitely more that it was thrown at them, which is obviously what the challenge was meant to do. But for me to realise truly how they connect in that way, and Dr. Justin, your comments about the 3 C's.
Connection, creation and consumption.
That really helped. Obviously, we weren't privy to those comments until the show aired. I heard that. But really, that helped me understand it to another level. I suppose a part of my feeling like a failure was also because our family values are about giving everything a go. That's how I've always parented them, that let's not say no to anything that's not within the bounds of us being harmed. Let's just give life a go. And if we don't succeed, or if it's not what we like, then we know. But you can't make a decision, or you don't know unless you've tried. So that was also confronting that at our core family value of we give everything a go, she wasn't prepared to give it a go. I did give her also post off camera. I gave her that full decision to say, okay, you've opted into the challenge now because I've required you to, but you now have the power to opt out of the challenge. So the phone is there. You're welcome to go and take it and use it, and you don't have to participate in this 24 hours. And she chose not to. She chose to dive in and participate, and she was successful.
That's awesome. I think, you know, that was probably one of the most real moments that we saw, and it was very raw. And I think one of the reasons that people have resonated so well with you, Deb, is just that acknowledgement, because we all have those moments where we just
feel like a failure.
We are an absolute failure. We've had the conversations. We've taught and instructed and inducted for so many years, and we find ourselves in this place where our kids have their own minds and they make their own choices. And you kind of go, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? So I really appreciated that as a mum, sitting there kind of just going, yep, I'm there with you and I feel that. But when you think about the experiences that you had as a family as a whole, you know, going into a show like this on national TV.
So brave.
And having your parenting critiqued, how did it affect your family?
See, I don't see it as brave at all. That is the word that's thrown at me a lot. We decided as a family to do this, not knowing that it was a competition at all. We thought it would be some sort of documentary style. We were aware that there were challenges involved, but clearly I thought they have to give us something to do to create a little bit of entertainment.
In fairness, we very much downplayed the competition element, though. It was never really about the competition. Even the fact that nobody even knew that there was a holiday on offer until the very last day. We really downplayed the competition. But anyway, I don't mean to intrude.
Look, we got an amazing experience. We got to do some challenges and different experiences that, as a single mum, like going for fine dining, I know that wasn't shown, but we got to go to a fine dining restaurant. That is not something that happens in my world. There's not the finances for that. Yeah, we got so much out of it.
What would you say your biggest learnings were?
Oh, definitely the moment with Jess. That is going to create long-lasting impact for the rest of the children coming, because I just have such an understanding and empathy now with my teens that will be coming through. If they're having those moments of struggling to release a little bit from technology, just to understand really where she came from. That conversation that night sitting on my bed and what she shared is priceless, and it wasn't captured, and that's even what makes it even more perfect. Definitely that moment is one of the biggest learning curves I've had in parenting in quite a few years.
I love it. Deb, we really appreciate you having a chat with us. One last question from me. Have you gone out and bought a hardcover UBD or FedEx so the kids can navigate you from the back seat from now on rather than using Google?
I haven't, and I keep saying that I'm going to.
So many homeschool lessons right there. Just drive around the city. They're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
That was a real highlight. I loved watching that activity. An absolute delight to be able to talk with you. Thank you for sharing this part of your life with us. We appreciate it so much.
You're very welcome.
It's Deb, our homeschool mum from Parental Guidance on Channel 9's reality family TV show. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. Black Friday sale. It's on right now. I haven't mentioned it on the podcast, but I'm going to take just a couple of seconds to mention the Black Friday sale is on. We've got sales happening at happyfamilies.com.au that we never, ever have. It's the only time of the year where we have these kinds of sales. Let me tell you really quickly what we've got. We've got 30% off the premium Happy Families membership. We never do this. It's the best price it will ever be. 30% off the premium Happy Families membership, 50% off all digital products, 30% off all of our summit recordings, the Misconnection Summit and the Little People Big Feelings Summit, and 25% off all books, not including the bundles. They're all at happyfamilies.com.au. Just jump onto the Black Friday sale We would be thrilled to be able to help your family to be happier.